We're going to get cracking in a moment, but before we do, this is an important announcement. The information contained in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into account your personal situation. We don't guarantee the quality of the wine or the banter contained in this content. You should consider whether the information is appropriate for your needs and your daily intake. And where appropriate, seek professional advice from a financial advisor, accountant, bottle shop assistant, or relevant qualified professional. Matters referred to in this podcast are of general nature only, and for those of drinking age, and should not be relied upon in place of appropriate personal advice or the odd glass of wine on a Friday.
To make sure you get the most out of wealth, wine and wisdom, folks, please follow the house rules. Don't be a wallflower, get involved in the chat. We love to have some questions, feedback, and a little bit of commentary along the way. You give us energy, we'll have a good time. Make sure you pour yourself a glass of something wet to wet the whistle. Make sure you get the banter flowing as well. Doesn't matter what you're drinking, whether it's wine, our favourite, beer, coffee, maybe it's a cup of tea, water, or even juice. Keep that good energy flowing, folks. There's some house rules. If you don't put your name down, we don't know who you are, you're not coming in. Don't spam or advertise. This is our little game of cricket. This is all about debriefing the week, folks. What's going on out there in the world, and hopefully get you some sanity, maybe a bit of a chuckle at the end of the week, so we can all be on the same page and keep moving forward. Make sure you respect your fellow patrons, because we don't let any old muck in this place. And most of all, have some fun and enjoy this episode of Wealth, Wine and Wisdom.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me know if that has worked on your side of the equation. Should have. I'll start my little preamble again. Thanks for giving me the heads up there, team. A little bit of a technical difficulty. But I was just saying, flying solo here tonight, but it's good to see all of you aboard. I've got my little glass of something wet, so hopefully all of you are as well. I just said a big g'day to all of you, so hopefully you can all read lips as I brought you up onto the screen. But yes, Jason and I have had a little bit of a sabbatical. We've been working on some things in the background, which I want to share with you today, which is super. We think it's super cool, and we hope that you do as well. So, team, make sure you grab a glass of wine, because here's the other thing. Since we left you a couple of weeks ago, or not left, since we had a little bit of a sabbatical, didn't the world go a bit nuts? There has been things left, right, and center, which I know you're going to be thinking about. I know you're going to be thinking about what's all this Airbnb debacle that's been up there. What's happening with interest rates? Where are they going? Gosh, is inflation under control? Now they kicked low out, the great scapegoat of 2023. We've also got the rent freeze. What happened with that, with the Greens? Well, I know anybody who's been listening to Jason's Wealth Coffee Chats knows exactly what's been happening there, but we're going to dive deeper into that. And the government build program. So we're going to chat about a little bit of that tonight, but I also wanted to introduce you to something that has had Jason and I working pretty hard over the last few weeks. One of the reasons that we haven't been joining you as frequently. We will be back because there is a lot to cover. So let me promise you this. We're going to touch on it a little bit tonight, but Jason and I will be back. We'll be talking a lot about the rent freeze and what actually happened there. We'll be talking a lot about this whole Airbnb thing that's coming on. It's amazing, the quick fix of the government. Brilliant minds, or just looking for Band-Aids. We've also got the 1.2 million house build. Where's that going to all come from? And some of you might remember some of the things that Jason and I were talking about. It was a while back now. I couldn't tell you the date, but we said there was something sinister going on with some of the things that have been passed down here in Victoria, especially. I reckon we'll line some of those dots up. You make up your minds, but smells a little bit fishy to me, and where are interest rates going? So we're going to dive deep into that. We'll have a little bit of a chat tonight, but certainly we're going to have a good feast because they've certainly given us a lot to gnaw on. And I'm sure that you guys are wondering what's happening and what are the impacts? If this stuff comes through, what's ultimately going to happen? But just to let you all in on a little bit of a secret, it's not so much of a secret now if you're following me and many of the channels that Jace has got out there. Jason and I have been working on something in the background. It's really been, one of the Wealth, Wine and Wisdom babies, if you will. And one of our passions, as you know, is wealth, but the other is small business, small to medium business. And so Jason and I have been working on a program, and where I'm pleased to announce that next Friday, we're actually going to launch the Freedom Machine, which is part of what Jason and I have been running in the background for business owners, especially around wealth. The Freedom Machine is a 4-hour workshop for business owners. I'm going to drop it in the chat for you guys. If you want it, just tag me in or tag Jason in anywhere. Say, shoot us through the Freedom Machine, or just put in freedom. And if you whack that in the chat, we'll make sure that we punch the link in there for you. I'm going to put it out there for all of you to see now. So if you guys want to come along, by all means, we're going to spend 4 hours deep diving into wealth for business owners, all of the things that can go wrong, how to avoid them, structurally how to get yourself set up, how to minimize tax, how to accelerate wealth. It's a free 4-hour workshop. So we've been spending a lot of time making sure that that's perfectly put together for you guys so that we can help you, your friends, your family, fellow business owners from around Australia. Because, ladies and gents, whack it in the chat. Who is the number one taxpayer in Australia? Or what group is the number one taxpayer in Australia? You guys will know that if you've followed us for long enough. For those of you who haven't, before we get into it, welcome to Wealth, Wine and Wisdom. My name's Andy Fenton. Jason Witten is absent today. It's a public holiday in Queensland. So the Wealth, Wine and Wisdom was effectively born through the COVID times, where we wanted to share with you the wisdom that we get from all of our professionals that we work with in our circles, and also to demystify some of the hullabaloo that tends to happen in all the media circus. There's a reason why they call it a media circus, ladies and gentlemen. It's because there's a bit of a freak show behind there, and really, I mean, you do pay to watch it, but probably you pay the wrong price. That's it, Chris, 100%. Small business is the largest taxpayer in Australia by an absolute country mile, by the way. But coming back to the media circus, they put stuff out there. They don't care. It's all clickbait journalism these days, ladies and gentlemen. So we put together Wealth, Wine and Wisdom to help smooth out the information that's flowing. Share facts, not thoughts. Share facts, not fiction. And ultimately help you navigate the world without all of the emotional roller coaster that comes along with these sensationalist headings. So that's where Wealth, Wine and Wisdom was born. And that's the reason why Jason and I come on every Friday, or albeit we've missed a few, to hang out with you guys, have a little bit of a drink. While you've been doing that, yes, Jeff got it right. Small business is the largest taxpayer. Last time I checked, it was like 68%. Is what small business contributed as far as the tax revenue to Australia. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be running the Freedom Machine. I put the link in the chat. If you want to come along, or if you want to help us out, share it onto your pages. I promise you, it's going to be we're going to leave nothing left on the table. Literally going to take business owners through how to structure their business, how to set up bank accounts, how to run lending, how to do everything, whether your business is an ATM, which is something that just spits out cash the whole time, or whether it's an asset and how do we maximize that asset. We're going to do a 4-hour free deep dive workshop for anybody who wants to come along. So team, it's in the chat. If for whatever reason you haven't got it, please write freedom in the chat and we'll make sure that our team find that and punch that link in. Register up. We'd love to spend next Friday hanging out from 9 to 1 p.m. It's going to be a big session and we're super, super excited to be bringing it to all of you and at the right price, free. So team, as promised, after next week when we do our big deep dive into small to medium business wealth and protection and risk management, and most importantly, tax minimization. After we do that, we're going to come back with Wealth, Wine and Wisdom and chat about the things that have been going on. So I'm going to touch on the key topics, and what I'd love for you guys to do is put together your questions, fire them out to us via the social channels over the coming week so that we can get prepped to make sure that we serve you best, and especially all the property owners out there who are loving their Airbnb, and whack it in the chat as well. What is, in our opinion, the number one menace when it comes to destroying investment classes or asset classes and really fundamentally having a negative return on the market in general? Who's the number one menace, the main culprit that seems to do it every single time? Things go along well, and then this group get involved and really upset the apple cart and quite often send things south. If you whack it in the chat for us. For those of you who know the show and been here for long enough, 100% it is the government. And ladies and gentlemen, they've been asleep at the wheel. We've been talking about it. Jeff, love you. So we've been talking about it here for many, months, year and a little bit. But the housing shortage has been coming for quite some time. And so ultimately, fair marketplace sees shortage in market, less available, rents go up. That coupled with sliding interest rates that have been falling over a period of time now, 18 in a row, and then another 19 that came in, has created a significant uplift in the valuations in property and a significant uplift in the amount of rent that people are paying, and that's called fair market, right? Fair market pricing. So the rent freeze that was brought in by the Greens initiative, that's been kicked to the curb at the moment. So basically everywhere around Australia has certain conditions that they have to comply with as far as rent's concerned. And the 1 year sort of revaluation of rents still sticks, but ultimately, thank goodness that initiative is out the door, because that would have been negative. No matter what they did, that was going to have a bad impact. But we're going to talk a lot about what's happening in the Airbnb space. So for those of you who have been asleep and haven't been watching the media, well, good on you for a start for not watching it. It's mostly garbage. But they're proposing to choose who can do what with their real estate. So another way where the government are coming in and saying, well, we're going to tell you how you can utilize your investments. So like the yes vote, vote no for these sorts of decisions. We don't get a say in this one. They're going to run these ones through Parliament, and we don't get a yes or a no say. Not now. We do at the election. But ultimately, keep your eyes on the prize. Keep your eyes on the headlines here, because it's going to be very, very interesting as to what they believe. And so riddle me this. Does anybody know, 3 figures here? One, how many properties on average are available for Airbnb throughout the year in Australia? Then number 2, what is the housing shortage number? And number 3, what is the immigration number? And if you know these 3 numbers, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to share these with you in the coming weeks. If you know these 3 numbers, well, pretty clearly, you're going to realize that it's not going to have much of an impact. This is another one of those tricks where they say, look over here, while they're doing something very, very, very different. So something we're going to be keeping a keen eye on, seeing what they're going to try and pass, how they're going to try and pass it, how they're going to manage it through the states. So we're going to be deep diving on that over the coming weeks and coming months. Then I'm sure there's going to be a media circus hanging around there, dropping fear left, right, and centre. But it's going to be an interesting area. It's one that Jason and I are very, very keen on, and it's an investment class. So for those of you who have been Airbnb properties out there, I'm sure you're going to be watching with keen eyes. So let's see what happens here. We've also got virtually every organisation or all of the major organisations saying that interest rates will be 1% lower in 12 months' time. Well, that's going to be interesting because the number one thing that I know is that every time there's universal agreement right across the board is that they're always wrong. And that's pretty much, you can take that to the bank. It's whether they're going to be low on the downside or low on the upside. So we're going to bring to you what's been happening globally as far as government bonds and future bond trends and what's happening with interest rates globally. And then also how that's going to affect Australian interest rates and what's going to happen in our little slice of paradise in the world. And this is going to be a big one for investors, right? It's going to be a very big one. And what I can promise you is it's got absolutely nothing to do with Lowe being thrown under the bus and pushed out the back door. Lowe being the ex-chair of the Reserve Bank of Australia, the great patsy or the great scapegoat of 2023, as we call him. So we're going to do a deep dive into interest rates so that you can make more informed decisions rather than just trusting popular opinion. Which is another thing, ladies and gentlemen, popular opinion. Effectively, that seems to be where we have politics these days, popular politics. And ultimately, popular politics and popular opinions tend to be a disaster for good decisions being made. So let's have a deep dive there so you can be more certain using facts as to what's actually going to be happening over the next 12 months. I'm not going to spoil it for you now. We don't have the time to run through it, but I just wanted to jump on and let you all know that it is coming. And here's the big one, ladies and gentlemen. What do you think I'm going to chat about? I'd love, because what do you think Jason and I are going to dine out about? Because this is one of, in theory, the biggest government initiatives that I've seen, almost ever. It's one of the most outrageous promises I think I've ever seen. And there's no proof in the history of Australia. And if you can, this is based on my thoughts and my studies, there may be, but there is a massive call being made by the governments. We're going to look right behind the lens and deep dive into every aspect of it. Love to know, if you're following me, what I'm going to be talking about or what Jason and I are going to be deep diving in and having a good old lunch. Snack, won't be a snack, let's face it, it's going to be an absolute feast. But anybody got it? Waiting for the chat to catch up. Well, while the chat's catching up, ladies and gentlemen, the government promises to build 1.2 million houses. Now, let me, and whack it into the chat, build it, there you go, Chris is onto it, building 1 million places for people to live. Right, so I don't know, for those of you who are in Victoria, I was on Southeastern a couple of times over the last few days, going out to the airport. Now, for those of you who know me, I have to go to the airport quite frequently. And I would say over the last 12 months, I've done that run 2 times each time, 12 to 24, I reckon close to 50 times. And usually going in the mornings and then, late at night after peak hour traffic. I don't think I've ever been on there where I've actually been able to drive 100 kilometres down there. Now, the reason why I say this, we're in Victoria. I'm just going to use Victorian examples. For those of you in Queensland, New South Wales, WA, South Australia, Tassie, let me know. Let me know if the government's ever built anything on budget, on time. And I'd be very, very keen to understand. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just in Victoria and we're a bit jaded by what happens down here. But 1.2 million places for people to live in to solve the housing shortage. Ladies and gentlemen, that is one of the scariest headlines that I've seen from a government initiative. Now, if they allow it to be in the private sector, great. But actually putting something like that out there is probably one of the more dangerous headlines I've seen for a number of reasons. And any of you who have followed any type of major developments from the governments, they're reasonable at building roads. They don't build them big enough with enough foresight. But ultimately, what is the potential of them actually doing this? What is the initiative behind it? How are they looking at being able to achieve it? If they actually start to put this in place, what is the probability of them being able to deliver on it on time, on budget? Think about the desalination plant. I think that was only 300% more than what the original funding costs were. And I think it was 2 years too late. And they didn't really need to use it because the drought had finished. I mean, I can think of a million examples. But it's a very, very interesting headline. It's one I think that we should be having a very, very good look at. Why do all of Dan's projects get approved and then go over budget by 5 times or more? I'm not sure if that's the correct figures, but it's a good question, Chris. A very, very good question. And it's one that we're going to dine out on. So, team, there's some big things to talk about. What are the impacts? Ultimately, these are all questions. And there's facts behind the questions, but ultimately what we'll be looking to bring to you guys in the coming months is, what is the real deal behind it? What's the reality? It's like the yes vote. I'm not going to touch that with the barge pole, but what I know is that these days, and I'm not going to say whether I'm yes or no, but ultimately if people want to engage in a conversation with me, I won't engage in the conversation and listen to an opinion unless the whole document has been read by the other side and not believed from whatever summary they heard from other people, because it's just propaganda. So what we're going to do over the coming weeks is really jump in to the detail behind that, share that with all of you so that we know what's going on behind the scenes. And like I said, jeepers, when it comes to headlines, it is an absolute feast. It's not famine for us. And I thought I'd just show my face, say good day, let you know we haven't forgotten about you. We're going to be back. We've got the deep dive next week. For those of you who have just joined, or not the deep dive, sorry, it's the Freedom Machine next week with Jason and I, where we're going to be spending Friday 4 hours, big deep dive into all things business, wealth, business, finance related. So if you'd like to join us, I'll drop the link into the chat again. We'd love to see you. If you'd like to share it with other business owners or share it on your Facebook page, Instagram, TikTok, whatever you like. But if you believe that clients your friends and family could benefit from spending some time with us, 4 hours in fact, then please share that with them. We want to make an impact. We want to help small to medium business owners out there because we are the backbone of Australia, ladies and gentlemen, the absolute backbone. Some might call us the mongrels, but whatever, we do our best. And quite often business owners aren't business owners. We're people with passions, and they became a business of ours. And we're going to help you avoid all the traps, avoid all the mistakes that Jason and I have made over 40 plus years, millions of dollars worth of mistakes, so that we can go on and make new mistakes together. And ultimately, that's what I think a better world looks like. So please feel free to come along, share it with other business owners that you believe would be able to benefit from the time with us. That's where we're going to be next Friday. So come along. We'll look forward to seeing you there on the deep dive, on the Freedom Machine. I keep calling it the deep dive. It was the deep dive the first time Jason and I ran it, but we've refined it now and really sharpened it up. So please join us. We'd love to see you. Please share it with people who you think can benefit. We'll be back the week after answering all the big questions, covering off on the rent freeze, covering off on the Airbnb, the government $1.2 million homes. Remember what happened when they built the MCG as an example? Don't worry, we'll bring all of these examples live and do an on budget. Remember, I think Jason and I said once that we should have a scorecard, and every year, every election year, all of the promises that were made and whether they were achieved and whether they were achieved on time and on budget. Just a red light, green light system. Super easy, so we can actually see what's happened. Wouldn't that be amazing? Maybe that's something that we can do in the future. Actually, Jace, maybe that's something we should do in Wealth, Wine and Wisdom. I reckon that's a good budget summary. So maybe we'll do that from year to year. What was delivered, what wasn't? So anyway, we'll be talking all about the $1.2 million homes. What does that mean for you? And having a really, really close look at interest rates, give you all the facts and figures from around the world so that you can make a more educated decision. But from me, ladies and gentlemen, that is it. Jason and I have missed you. We will be back better than ever, and looking forward to hanging out with you all. Jeff, Chris, Melanie, Tracy, Melinda, Justin. It's been great hanging out with you guys tonight. It's been short, it's been sweet, less than half an hour. But we'll look forward to seeing you next Friday if you're joining us as a business owner. Again, if you want to join and you can't find the link, just put Freedom in the chat. We'll make sure that the team deliver the link so that you can register and come on and spend 4 hours with us, and we'll look forward to spending that time with you. But for tonight, I'll wish you well, good health, enough wealth, and a fantastic weekend ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, have an absolute cracker. From me to you, Love to you, love to the families, and we will see you real soon for another episode of Wealth, Wine and Wisdom. Good night. Thanks for watching another episode of Wealth, Wine.
Like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications so you never miss a thing, folks.
We'll look forward to seeing you next time.
Debrief the week with Wealth, Wine and Wisdom.
Every Friday at 5 p.m. Victoria and New South Wales time. We know that Queensland, South Australia, WA have different time zones, as does Darwin, but we're sure that you can do the calculations depending on whether it's daylight savings or not.
You can also catch up on all the episodes wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you check out the Positive Mentor podcast from our 6-star team at positivementor.com.au.